My in-laws mocked me for years, so I revealed their biggest lie in front of everyone. Hey Reddit, I've never posted before, but after what happened last weekend, I can't keep this to myself anymore. I, 34F, have been married to my husband, Mark, 36M, for almost 10 years. I love him. He's been my rock, my best friend, the person I thought would always have my back. But honestly, his family has been a nightmare since day one. You know those families that look perfect from the outside? The kind that throw the best barbecues, send out group Christmas cards, and always seem to have it all together? That's Mark's family. But beneath the matching sweaters and perfect smiles, they are the most judgmental, passive-aggressive people I've ever met. And I was never good enough for them. It started small. Mark's mom, let's call her Diane, would make jokes about my cooking or the way I dressed. Mark's sister, Ashley, once told me I was brave for wearing horizontal stripes at my size. His dad, Phil, barely spoke to me, but when he did, it was usually to correct me on some trivial fact at the dinner table. At every family event, I became the punchline. I learned to laugh it off, to smile, and pretend it didn't hurt. Mark would always say, "That's just how they are. Don't take it personally." I tried. God, I tried. For years, I kept quiet, convinced that if I just tried harder, they'd accept me. But with every joke, every eye roll, every whispered comment, my confidence shrank a little more. I stopped offering to host. I avoided family gatherings when I could. Sometimes I wondered if Mark regretted marrying me. But last year, something changed. The mocking got worse, bolder, no longer behind closed doors, but in front of friends, my kids, even neighbors. And I started to wonder, how much disrespect can one person take before they break? The real escalation started at Mark's birthday barbecue last summer. We'd invited neighbors, friends, and family, kids running everywhere, burgers on the grill, all the makings of a perfect afternoon. I'd worked for days to make sure everything was great, hoping maybe this time Diane and Ashley would have nothing to pick apart. Instead, I barely got 5 minutes before it began. Diane started in, loud enough for the whole backyard to hear. "Oh, honey, you didn't make the potato salad yourself, did you?" We all remember last year. Everyone laughed, even Mark, like it was all harmless fun. Ashley joined in, telling a story about how I couldn't even scramble eggs without burning them. Phil piped up from his corner, shaking his head. Well, some people just aren't cut out for kitchen work. I felt my face burn and saw our neighbors exchange glances. My daughter clung to my leg, whispering, "Why are they mean to you, Mom?" That hurt more than anything. I glanced at Mark, but he just shrugged, already halfway through his beer, avoiding my eyes. By dessert, I was on autopilot, smiling for the crowd, holding back tears in the kitchen. Tara, my only real friend in that crowd, found me stacking plates. "You know they're out of line, right?" she whispered. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. I was tired of feeling like a stranger in my own life, the butt of every joke, and never defended. That night, as I cleaned up alone, I realized something. They were never going to stop, not unless I did something to make them. For the first time, I felt a flicker of anger underneath the shame. A voice in my head said, "You deserve better." I didn't know what to do yet, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. After the barbecue, I tried to talk to Mark. I told him I couldn't keep pretending his family's behavior was okay. "You saw how your mom treated me, right?" I asked. Mark sighed, like he was already exhausted. "That's just Diane. She's harmless. It's her sense of humor." "It's not funny to me," I said, voice shaking. He wrapped an arm around me, but I could tell he wasn't listening. "Just let it go, babe. It's not worth the drama." That was the moment I realized, if Mark wouldn't stand up for me, I'd have to stand up for myself. I started setting little boundaries, leaving the room when the jokes began, speaking up if Ashley tried to tease me in front of my kids. At first, it just made things worse. Diane would say, "Oh, someone's sensitive today." Ashley would roll her eyes and mutter, "Here we go again." The family group chat became its minefield. If I suggested a restaurant for a holiday dinner, Diane shot it down. "Too fancy for us." Or, "You know Phil can't stand Thai food." They'd make other plans and share photos, tagging everyone but me. I even caught my niece mimicking Diane's tone one day. "Why does Annie always look so tired?" Even the kids were picking up on it. The loneliness grew. I stopped sharing good news, promotions, new recipes, even our family trip to the zoo, because I knew it would just be another opportunity for mockery. The worst part? Mark started getting impatient. acting like I was the problem for making things awkward. "Why can't you just laugh along?" he asked one night. Because it wasn't funny. It was humiliating. I felt like I was slowly disappearing. But deep down, I knew I was still there, and I wanted her back. Maybe revenge wasn't healthy, but I couldn't help but wonder what would happen if I played by their rules for once. The final straw came at Christmas. Every year, Diane hosted a big holiday dinner, her favorite tradition. This year, Mark insisted we go, even though I wanted to skip it. I spent the week dreading every moment. Dinner was as uncomfortable as I'd feared. Diane criticized my dress. Red? At your age? Ashley joked about my baking attempts, and Phil asked if I finally learned to use a timer. Every time I tried to join a conversation, someone would talk over me or ignore what I said. My son, confused, asked, "Mom, why do they treat you like that?" I had no answer. When dessert came, Diane announced to the whole table, "Let's hope the pie's edible this year." My daughter-in-law tries, bless her heart. Laughter all around. I wanted to sink through the floor. After dinner, I went outside to breathe, hiding behind the garage. Tara, who joined us out of solidarity, found me shivering. "You don't deserve this, you know," she said. "No one ever calls them out," I whispered. "Not even Mark." She squeezed my hand. "So call them out. Or find a way to make them stop." That night, I barely slept. My mind spun with every cruel comment, every dismissive glance. And then, an idea started to form. Maybe I couldn't change their behavior by asking. But what if I could turn the tables? Suddenly, I saw a way out, not through more begging or arguing, but through truth. If they had nothing to hide, why did Diane panic every time someone brought up a certain old friend? Why did Ashley go silent about her frequent business trips? What secrets did they laugh about behind closed doors? For the first time, instead of shrinking, I felt a spark of defiance. I'd spent years biting my tongue. Maybe it was time to bite back. That night, lying awake while Mark snored beside me, I made a decision. I was done being the family doormat. If Diane and Ashley could make a sport out of humiliating me, maybe it was time to show everyone who they were. I started paying closer attention. Diane had a habit of hiding her phone when certain texts came in, always claiming it was just church group business. Ashley posted nonstop about her perfect marriage, but was always traveling for work, alone, even skipping her own husband's birthday. I began to quietly collect details, screenshots of suspicious social media posts, overheard conversations, odd receipts left in coat pockets. I even found a cryptic email from Diane to Ashley with the subject line, "Do not share with Phil." There was a sense of thrill and dread, like I was living in some soap opera. It felt sneaky, but for the first time in years, I felt a bit of power. At home, I played the role, smiling, laughing, pretending to forget every insult. Diane seemed almost bored without my reactions, like the game wasn't fun anymore. One afternoon, I found what I'd been searching for. Ashley left her unlocked laptop in the kitchen during a family brunch. I tried not to feel guilty, but curiosity won out. In her inbox, dozens of hotel confirmations, none matching her work trips. Worse, there were messages between Diane and Ashley referencing keeping the story straight and deleting anything that could get us in trouble. I sat in the bathroom, shaking, scrolling through everything. Shock turned into a cold, determined focus. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined. For once, I had the upper hand. The question wasn't if I'd use it, but how. Holding their secret felt heavier than I'd expected. I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing with possibilities. The evidence was clear. Ashley was having an affair, Diane was covering for her, and Phil had no idea. There were also strange bank transfers from Diane to Ashley, always labeled house projects, though Ashley lived in a tiny apartment. There was so much deception, so much fake perfection. I spent days wrestling with what to do. Was it wrong to use this information? Would it make me just as cruel as them? Every time I saw Diane's smug smile or Ashley's passive-aggressive comments, the answer felt clearer. I confided in Tara, needing to say it out loud. She listened, eyes wide, as I showed her the screenshots and emails. "You have enough to blow everything up," she said, her voice serious. "But you have to be ready for the fallout." "Are you?" That's when the guilt crept in. Mark had no idea. My kids looked up to their aunt and grandmother, even if they were mean to me. The risk of destroying Mark's family felt huge. But I also couldn't forget the humiliation, the years of being mocked, pushed aside, made to feel worthless. I watched Mark, wondering what he'd do if he knew. Would he blame me? Defend his mom and sister again? Or finally see the truth for himself? After another dinner where Diane joked about how I'd never make partner at work with that attitude, something in me snapped. I decided, if they wanted a performance, I'd give them one they'd never forget. I started planning. A family gathering was coming up, Phil's retirement party. Everyone would be there. The perfect audience. All I had to do was wait. Phil's retirement party arrived faster than I expected. The whole extended family was buzzing with excitement. Diane, of course, ran the show, handing out assignments, criticizing my choice of salad, reminding everyone that family image was important because neighbors would be dropping in. Ashley floated around, perfect hair, perfect nails, beaming for photos with her oblivious husband. I watched it all quietly, playing the part of the helpful daughter-in-law. Inside, my heart was pounding. Tara texted me, "Are you sure about this?" I was. I was done hiding. The house filled up, cousins, uncles, neighbors, Mark's friends from work. Everyone gathered in the living room for Phil's toast. Diane gave her usual speech about family values, honesty, and loyalty. I almost laughed. When it was my turn to offer congratulations, I stood up, hands trembling. "I want to say something," I began, my voice shaking but clear. The room fell silent, maybe surprised I dared to speak. I looked at Mark, who nodded encouragingly, still clueless. I looked at Diane and Ashley, who stared at me with icy smiles. Then I pulled out my phone. "There's something you all deserve to know. For years, I've been the family joke, the outsider. I kept quiet because I respected this family. But respect goes both ways, doesn't it?" A nervous ripple moved through the room. Diane's face paled. Ashley shifted in her seat. I continued, "I know about the lies, the secrets, the emails, the hotel stays, the money. I have proof of everything." I paused, meeting each person's eyes. Asked Diane and Ashley if they want to explain, or if I should show everyone right now. Dead silence. For once, no one had a joke. Time seemed to freeze after my words. Diane's hand went to her mouth, her eyes darting between me, Ashley, and Phil. Ashley stood up abruptly, knocking her chair into the table. "She's making things up," she snapped, her voice rising higher than usual. But her face was flushed, her mask slipping. Phil looked completely lost. "What is this about?" he asked, his voice trembling. I kept my tone even, refusing to back down. "You can ask Ashley about her hotel trips that don't match her work schedule. Or Diane about the bank transfers. Or the emails they hoped no one would ever see." I pulled up a few screenshots on my phone, turning it so that nearby family could see. A hush spread through the room as people read the subjects, saw the dates. Diane tried to recover. "We're family, we handle things privately. This is just..." I cut her off, my voice finally steady. "You didn't care about privacy when you humiliated me, Diane. For years. In front of everyone." Neighbors whispered. Mark's cousin looked at Ashley, then at her husband, who stared at the floor, piecing things together. Ashley started crying, the first genuine reaction I'd seen from her in years. Phil just sat, stunned, as Diane grabbed his arm, whispering frantically. Mark looked like someone had dumped ice water over his head. "Is this true?" he asked, barely above a whisper. No one answered. Finally, Tara spoke from across the room. "You all watched her get picked on for years. Maybe now you'll think twice about who deserves your loyalty." No one laughed. The party broke up in awkward silence. Diane and Ashley left quickly, Phil trailing behind. I'd done it. The truth was out. The days after the party were surreal. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, angry texts from Diane. "How could you embarrass us like that?" Rambling messages from Ashley. Even a few stunned apologies from family who'd witnessed everything. Mark didn't speak to me that night, just paced the house, silent and pale. The next morning, he finally broke the silence. "Why didn't you come to me first?" he asked, voice tight. "I tried, Mark. For years. You told me to let it go." He didn't argue. For the first time, I saw just how deep his denial had run. The family group chat exploded. Some relatives accused me of destroying the family, but others quietly admitted they'd seen the cruelty and done nothing. One cousin wrote, "I wish I'd stood up for you sooner." Even Phil eventually called. He sounded broken, but thanked me for opening his eyes. Mark's parents stopped by to see the kids and apologized awkwardly, but sincerely. "We let Diane go too far. You didn't deserve it," his dad admitted. It was the first time I ever heard those words from any of them. For a while, I worried about my marriage. Mark was distant, but slowly he started to open up, apologizing, asking questions, listening for once. We started therapy together. I told him, if this is going to work, you need to protect me, too. The relief I felt was real, but so was the guilt. I never wanted to hurt Phil or the kids. The fallout was messier than I'd imagined, but for the first time, I wasn't carrying the shame alone. And as Diane and Ashley's perfect image cracked, I realized something powerful. Telling the truth had finally set me free. It's been a few months since that night. Our family looks different now. Diane and Ashley keep their distance, nursing their wounded pride, still complaining to anyone who'll listen. Some relatives cut us off, but honestly, the quiet is a relief. Others have slowly come around, cousins reaching out, old friends offering support. Phil moved in with his brother for a while, finally seeing his wife and daughter for who they are. Mark and I are still working on things. Therapy isn't magic, but it's helping. He finally sees that keeping the peace sometimes just means letting someone else get hurt. I promised myself, never again would I shrink to fit anyone's comfort. Our kids are happier, too. There's less tension at home, more laughter, more peace. Even Tara says I seem lighter. You finally look like you belong in your own life, she told me. She's right, I do. Sometimes, I still feel guilty about the way everything went down. Revenge isn't as satisfying as you might think. But I also know that standing up for myself was long overdue. Years of silence didn't buy me any respect, only more humiliation. It took speaking the truth, loudly and publicly, to make anyone listen. If you're reading this and you have toxic in-laws or anyone who makes you feel small, you are not crazy. You are not weak. Boundaries matter, even if people hate you for them. Respect yourself first. And if you have to burn down the old version of family to protect your peace, sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I finally feel heard.